Apparently I'm super talkative today, as you guys can tell. Oh my gosh, so here's the almond extract. I've never used almond extract before. It is so good smelling. I wish Merry meet and welcome to Plant-Based Laughter. I'm Taylor. Today we're going to be taking on Central Perk Almond Biscotti. I've never made fresh biscotti, nor have I had it. So we're really going to be working through this recipe, but I'm very excited because I have had, you know, like the packaged biscotti. I've just never had it fresh, so I'm very excited. I think I'll probably say that more times as we get going, but let's just go ahead and jump right in. Merry meet again. So here we are getting started with our dry ingredients. So we have our almond flour. I felt it was very important for our almond biscotti, so I really didn't want to make like any substitution. So I went ahead, I think we have like a zero waste store near me, so I was able to get exactly what I needed. So definitely research your options if you are not looking to have a whole bunch of almond flour. Then we have our regular all-purpose flour. So for some reason I'm deciding to mix these as I go. I think I'm also just trying to break up these lumps, honestly, since I did not sift them, but for some reason it just feels like we probably want it to be as fine as possible versus having like those lumps that I tend to accept to my lesser sweets and desserts. Anyways, then we of course have our sugar. You can also use monk fruit sweetener. That's my favorite replacement because it can be a one-to-one. And then we have our salt. And that's going to be our dry ingredients all mixed up. We're going to set this to the side and get started with our wet ingredients. Merry meet again. Here we are with our wet ingredients now. So we're going to go ahead, add in our flaxseed. I didn't want to, I feel like flaxseed has better structure than a chia seed egg, but I'm not sure because sometimes I feel since it's the chia seeds like break up more, it comes across more. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and do that. It's supposed to be equate 3 eggs, and then we have our olive oil. Apparently I'm super talkative today, as you guys can tell. Oh my gosh, so here's the almond extract. I've never used almond extract before. It is so good smelling. I wish I could remember where else I've smelled this, but it is just so good. It is intoxicating. Just a quick mix before we add in our lemon zest. And then I wrapped up the rest of the lemon since there's no lemon juice being used in it, so don't want that to dry out. But we're just going to do this since we essentially are trying to mix the oil and water together from how we make our flax egg, which is very similar, right, when you're mixing with your regular eggs. So we don't need it to get perfect either because we kind of just want them to get along a bit better and not separate before we're going to go ahead and just mix this right into our dry ingredients. Okay, so I'm gonna move this slightly to the side. I don't really have a well, so I'm gonna make one really quick. A well, if you don't know, is where you make a little hole in the center to just help direct your liquids. So if you've ever seen like homemade pasta being made, how they put like the yolks in the middle of the flour, it's to give that barrier. Obviously my well wasn't that functional, but that's why we do it, so that it doesn't kind of go all over the place. And in theory, I mean, someone probably actually knows this fact, and I could have looked it up before this, but in theory you are able to then mix it better as well and have more control over the wet ingredients coming together with the dry, because you can just scrape the bowl and it kind of creates that internal swirl. But yeah, here we go. So we're just gonna go ahead, get this into our dough here. Looking good, looking good. So it is supposed to look a little bit like a cookie dough, is how I feel. Maybe, are these classified as cookies? I think they are, right? It's the same kind of dough. You use eggs. Oh, it's been a minute since I've made cookies. I don't think you typically use milk, but there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and roll this out on a well floured surface. Okay, so I'm gonna do something. because this just makes more sense to me. So stick with me on this, is I'm gonna roll it out on the cookie sheet itself because that makes more sense to me since we're not cutting anything out right now. Yeah, so that, I'm just saying that because that may be where we go wrong in this, but it just makes sense to me versus like having to then try to move a whole slab of solid dough to the cookie sheet. Like, why wouldn't we just roll it out in there? So check in with you soon when we are rolling out our dough. Marry me again. So I wanted to kind of test this out a little bit before I just like fully brought you guys back because I don't know what I'm doing. But this dough is so sticky. I do think it is because maybe I messed up the flaxseed portion. That's just sometimes the trouble when you're replacing eggs and baking, especially if anything is really like that. Honestly, this is why some recipes are like, you need to use a scale, you have to use grams. But so the rolling, since it's so sticky and the rolling pin, even with flour coated on it, it was sticking to it. We're gonna do something chaotic, and we, as you can see, are just gonna use the spatula. It's so moldable. It is still like a cookie dough. It just is so sticky and wet that it isn't wanting to be anything else. And so we're supposed to get 12. So I want it to be long enough to cut into, oh, I guess we could do, I feel like they're always long and skinny. So I want it to be long enough to be able to do 6 cuts vertically, sorry. 6 cuts vertically, and then I was thinking like 6 horizontally across. So 6 cuts vertically, 1 cut across, and then that should get us the 12 that the recipe says it'll do. So yeah, this is it chaotic for me to do it this way? Maybe, but this is working so much better than the rolling pin, and we're still gonna get a flat surface. It's still gonna bake. I'm now realizing I don't know if biscotti rises because we didn't really have any rising agents, do we? All right, fun experiment. Thank you for being here while I am literally just doing it. So yeah, we have the oven preheated at 350 degrees. What we're going to do, this is another interesting thing about just biscotti recipe in general. I am recognizing, by the way, that one side is a little bit thicker than the other, so we are going to have to monitor that, but sometimes that is also just what happens. Anyways, yeah. So we're going to bake this for 30 minutes before we go ahead, remove it, allow it to cool for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to actually cut them, and then we'll return it back into the oven with cut side up. So we're gonna like turn them onto their sides. Yes, everything's gonna work out great. I'm gonna actually just take a wet cloth, clean up this extra flour. I just wanted to make sure I had it underneath. And yeah, thank you for being on this chaotic cook with me today. Check in with you soon. I will say though, we're laughing, we're having fun, and that's the main thing. Lessen the anxiety. Bye. Marry me again. So here we are with our cooled biscotti. So yep, it did not rise. I realize I actually probably put it too far out. We definitely could have done a little bit less, and we would have 6 because we essentially are gonna get some very large ones, but we're gonna go ahead and, or thin ones I should say, and then more than the recipe called for due to that. But you know, it is what it is. We learn, we live and we learn. Okay. So yep, we're just gonna go ahead, cut them into strips, and then we're gonna cut these strips into half, and we're going to put them back on the cookie sheet, but we are going to put them on their sides so that we can get them to finish cooking, as well, I believe, to harden the interiors a little bit more. This one's gonna be a little thin, but we're just gonna go for it. Okay. So yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. Okay, we got 8 more. So yeah, so definitely learn from my mistakes. And then I'm going to go put them safely. I almost grabbed the hot pan with my hand. And it seems like they go like this, which if they were not thin, this would not look weird whatsoever. Cool. So this is going to be kind of fun for me. This probably wants to be, well, we're just gonna go with it. But yeah, so this is essentially what we're going to go ahead and do. Have those, put them back into the oven for about 15 more minutes or until golden brown. Since it's thin, we've kind of probably already put them in there for a little bit longer already, so they probably don't need to go in there for 15 minutes right now for me since they're thin, but we'll go ahead and be back with a taste test and I will check in with you soon. Marry me again. So here we are. Like I said, I only ended up leaving it in there for about 7 minutes versus the full 15. Also because I ended up having a little taste test in between, and I like the softness. I think I thought it just a little bit harder to make it dunkable in coffee, but I actually think that's maybe a part of the fun of making your own almond biscotti. First off, it was such an easy recipe. It smelled so good, made the house smell so good, and you can bake it to the firmness that you desire, and I think that's a huge thing if you're like, I just think that's a big thing to just be able to have something that is like, so I'm gonna go ahead, brew myself a little cup of coffee, have a few of these, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more recipes being veganized. Feel free to comment below anything too that you would like to see. Right now we are working out of this cookbook, and then if you are also following for Saturdays, we have our Sims, but I'm very open to trying out other new recipes. We're not gonna have these two medias forever, so bye.